Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Dicktember. This is a BookTube event, brand new, created by Mark at Booktime with Elvis, and co-hosted with Sean D. Stanfast and Michael K. Vaughn, and yours truly. We are reading Private Eye, Private Investigator, Gumshoes, House Dicks. We're reading Private Eye fiction for the month of September. I view it as kind of an ancillary thing to the great March Mystery Madness, of which Private Eye detection fiction would be a small part. Because that's months away. And I love reading murder mysteries the year round. So our emphasis is on private detectives. And I've been reading a ton, and rereading a ton. And I made a video. I made a very categorizing, Jesuitical video about how we would categorize what we're talking about. What are some essential characteristics of a private investigator, of PI fiction? What are the tenets of Dicktember. And one of those tenets that I put out was that the private eye must be paid. This has to be professional. It can't just be the toff wandering into a police station saying, "My gentlemen, don't you realize what may be the solution to this problem?" It can't be that with a fresh flower in his boutonnet. It can't be that. And I listed examples of people that would rule out. And one of the examples that I listed was Nero Wolfe, Rex Stout's classic hero, Nero Wolfe. And a number of you emailed me in flagrant violation of the number one rule of this channel, which is that Steve is always right. Or is that number two? That might be rule number two. Steve is always right. A number of you emailed me and pointed out that in the Nero Wolfe stories, it's pretty clear that Nero Wolfe does act for money. That act of effrontery was bad enough. But since my email is readily available, a lot of you email about any subject under the sun. Thinking about adopting a new dog, thinking about moving out of the country, thinking about getting a new iPhone or a new MacBook. I welcome that. I absolutely love it. Most of you are very patient with the obvious limitation. The one thing you have to keep in mind is that I work at my computer all day long. If I've got a lot of work to do and it's pressing, I won't maybe be able to get to your email, especially if your email is 2,000 words long. But another person emailed me just recently. The guilty party knows who they are, and the email was pretty astonishing. the email, I'm going to paraphrase it. I don't want to read the whole thing, but the email said, I rejoice, along the lines of, I rejoice in the fact that so many people have had the bravery to correct you about your mistake regarding Nero Wolfe. And I would like to add a further piece of heresy. This person wanted to know why I'm insisting that a private eye should not be paid. Wanted to know if it was, the word they used was caprice. The person pointed out that A, the first part of private eye, private, means the person is not acting on the behalf of a state or local authority. They are commissioned by an individual or by a group of individuals to act outside the law. And that B, detective, is a person who pieces together disparate elements in order to solve a mystery. The person pointed out that neither one of those things necessitates that the person be acting for money. It is entirely possible for a person to do both of those things and still not get paid. To be both of those things and still not get paid. And the person who wrote the email finished it out by saying, I really think you should include unpaid private eyes in Dicktember, or else you're probably a transphobe. I absolutely love how so many of you get my sense of humor. As long as the rest of YouTube and naturally the Twitter commentariat doesn't realize there's a group of people out there making fun of them, because otherwise they descend on us like locusts. All right, fine. Okay, fine. I don't want to introduce the smell of blood into the water, but I also don't want to be accused of being a transphobe. So, okay, fine. You're correct. I will amend my earlier video. There is nothing in the description of a private eye to rule out someone who is not working for money, who is just doing it for other motives. There is nothing to rule that out, so we will rule them back in. So Miss Marple is back on the menu, boys. And I was sort of nudged to make that amendment in my own Jesuitical rules because of the book that I reread for today and that I wanted to show you today. This is Murder at the Brightwell by Ashley Weaver. This is the very first Amory Ames murder mystery. And these are wonderful period pieces, just fantastic. This series just gets better and better. In this first novel, we are introduced to Amory Ames, who is wealthy. She has plenty of money, a wide selection of high society friends, and she is her husband, who is very much the co-star of these novels, was a well-known playboy, and she's not 100% sure in these early novels that he is over his predilections. In other words, it's not exactly Nick and Nora Charles. She's not sure that she trusts him. Not to make a fool of her, naturally, in the bright light of high society, so that she appears on the society pages, but also personally. It would be bad enough if he were caught in an affair, and her name would be ruined. She would be totally, monstrously embarrassed. But also, she loves him, and doesn't like to think that that emotion is misplaced. It's a wonderful dynamic. It's already in full swing in this first novel, when she takes a case, and she doesn't do it for money, so she's definitely allowed. She takes a case. A friend of hers invites her to the Brightwell Hotel, where the friend's sister is engaged to marry someone very much like Amory Ames's Milo. She's very much another well-known playboy. And when that well-known playboy ends up dead at the Brightwell, Amory's friend is fingered as the primary suspect. So it's a perfect example of what that obstreperous letter writer was referring to, which is that there are plenty of other motives for private eyes to take on cases other than money. It doesn't have to be disinterested. And I was sort of cutting off my nose to spite my face by making such a rule, because that rules out so much fun stuff. This whole series would be ruled out, and is incredibly good. If you don't know of these books, then, get Murder at the Brightwell. I think in this case, it's not always true with murder mysteries in series, but in this case, I think it probably pays. It would probably be worthwhile for you to start with number one, to start at the beginning. Not every series is like that, but this one is. And there's an oddity to this series that I guess it isn't so odd. It wasn't odd in the golden age of Private Eye and Gumshoe and whodunit stories, but I think it's more odd nowadays, and maybe aficionados of this series would disagree with me. But I think one of the oddities of this series is that Amory Ames doesn't have much in the way of sleuthing skills. It's true she has entree into high society, but beyond that, I don't know if I can rest this in my hand like that. Can I do that? I can. The iPad is behaving very well. Beyond that entree, beyond knowing who's who and knowing all the right people, I don't know. When we read Private Eye in fiction, we expect that the Private Eye will, even despite appearances, remember Detective Columbo, that despite appearances, the PI will be, or I guess Columbo's not a PI, according to my own rules. I don't want to bend them anymore. But ordinarily, despite appearances, the PI will be the smartest person in the book. I don't think that's unfair to say. I'm pretty sure that's true. That the PI will often be extremely retiring, adept at blending into the background. We saw that already with Miss Silver. Nobody expects that she is listening to everything, hearing everything, and putting everything together faster and sharper and more correctly than trained police detectives. No one expects that from her outward appearance. And that's true of a whole bunch of detectives. That's not true of Amory Ames, and I'm not 100% sure. I mean, when I reread this first book in the series, not only did it make me want to read the others all over again, I don't think I have time to do that in my admittedly indulgent reading schedule here at the end of summer. But not only did it make me want to reread those books again, but I was trying to think of those individual books. Unlike everybody else, when I read a murder mystery series, sometimes the events of the individual books blur together. But I was thinking, Amory Ames, I mean, if you compare her to, say, Elizabeth Peabody, I will think on it quite a bit, but I don't. One of the odd things about this series is that it's really the synergy between her and her husband that gets the insights going into the crimes, I think. I don't ever notice her putting two and two together in any kind of really noticeable way. Or if she does, it's usually in circumstances where anybody would put two and two together unless they're in on it, unless they're the guilty party. I don't know if that counts as a failure. I wonder if you've read Private Eye series that are like that. Actually, it's not a Private Eye series, but it's a mystery series. I mentioned it before, Donna Leone's Inspector Brunetti series. I often get the same sense with Brunetti, that he's not an outstanding cop. He just tends to be in the right place at the right time. He tends to see the right thing, but I don't always get the impression that he would come to the right thing if it weren't handed to him. If he didn't, in a couple of books, literally trip over it. Not to say that he's, an Inspector Clouseau that's bumbling and doesn't know how to do police detective work. When we come to an amateur private eye, someone who's not working for money, I must swallow crow and allow that into my dispensations of PI, of Dicktember. When we're coming to someone like that, Amory Ames is invited to the Brightwell by a friend of hers, and the friend of hers is accused of a crime. So she's not only alerted to the odd goings-on here, but also becomes immediately personally involved, personally motivated to solve them. And all throughout this book, I kept thinking, well, okay, what if she'd just been a guest for the wedding? What if she'd just been there on her own, or even not for the wedding? What if she'd just been a guest at the hotel? Would she even have noticed that anything was wrong? Did she have any instincts that would have been triggered by any of this? If she hadn't been invited, and if a friend of hers hadn't been accused of the crime, I don't know. I don't want to offend any of the fans of this series. I know there are quite a few, including on BookTube. I'm pretty sure that Olive at Book Olive loves this series. And I love it too. It's just that was the element that stuck out for me here, which naturally started me off on all sorts of Jesuitical rabbit hole chasings, because what is it in a private eye? What separates them? What is the distinctive quality of the House Dick? Are they better at solving things? Are they better at putting pieces together? Is that necessary as a quality? Or are they more dogged, or in the right place at the right time? I don't know. This made me think about that, and I love thinking about things like that on conceptual, numerical levels like that. But that's your entry for Dicktember, was Murder at the Brightwell. A terrific series, a real recommend. I don't know if I've done a lot to recommend it in this video, but those questions are on my mind. Why is Amory Ames the protagonist here? And what does she bring to the story that anybody else wouldn't have brought? That was on my mind. So I'll wrap this up for now. We'll see what I get next time. Thank you, BookTube.